welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm going to teach you how to make popcorn on an induction cooktop. I'm sure you've made popcorn before on the stove, and when you make popcorn on a gas stove or an old-fashioned electric stove, usually you put the popcorn in the oil in the frying pan, put the lid on, and you heat up the oil, and then you add the remaining kernels and you shake until the popcorn is done. On an induction cooktop, shaking is not a good idea because you're going to end up turning the stove off. You're going to end up scratching the stove top. It's just not a good idea to shake a pot on top of an induction cooktop. So today we're going to try making popcorn on the induction cooktop without shaking the pot. Today I'm going to use an 8-quart pot to make the popcorn on the induction cooktop. This happens to be a GE profile induction cooktop. Therefore it has 10 settings for the induction cooktop. I am going to use the largest burner for this particular size pot to make sure that the entire pot is on the heating element. I have assembled here the ingredients that I'm using in this popcorn. I'm using about 1/3 of a cup of popcorn, maybe slightly over in this case. I'm using sesame chili oil. Later I'm going to spice the popcorn with a little bit of Za'atar and a little bit of nutritional yeast. And I'm also going to use regular extra virgin olive oil. So my main ingredients are popcorn, chili oil, sesame chili oil, and extra virgin olive oil. And I'm using 1/3 of a cup, which is a fair amount, and I'm going to use enough popcorn to line the bottom of the pan, a single layer of popcorn, and then I'm going to cover it with olive oil and add a little bit of chili oil for flavor. So I'm going to put first my popcorn. It really doesn't matter if you put the oil in first or the popcorn. See how there's plenty of room in the pot to just have that popcorn down as a single layer of popcorn at the bottom of the pot. I could actually add a few more kernels here, and I think I will in this case. So for this particular size pot, you might be able to get away with putting in 1/2 cup of popcorn. I'm just going to add a few more kernels just to line the bottom. Okay, so that's about 1/2 cup of popcorn. I'll do a little more. Okay. Then, see, that's our popcorn. Now we're going to pour in the olive oil, extra virgin. That's what I use. And I guess I'm using everything that was in here, which is probably, again, about 1/4 of a cup of oil, give or take a few drops. And that should be sufficient in this case because I have covered the pan in oil. You can see in there, I have covered the pan in oil. Now I'm going to just drizzle, make a nice figure 8 and a couple of figure 8s, the sesame oil in on top of the other oil. So you see I've just drizzled it in, maybe 1/4 of a teaspoon at most of the chili oil. Now I'm going to put the lid on the popcorn. I've put the lid on the popcorn, and now I'm going to turn the stove on. You can see for the settings for this burner, there's an on-off button. I just press it on. It starts at 5. I'm going to bring it all the way up to 8. There are up to 10 settings here. I'm going to bring this up to 8, actually 8.5. So that's pretty high. I have set my induction cooktop to 8.5, 8.5 out of 10. And I'm going to let the popcorn pop. You're going to listen to it now. So let's just listen, because it's going to happen pretty quickly. As I said, when I first started using induction cooktops, I did not think you could cook popcorn on an induction cooktop, because I tried it and I shook the pot and I ended up melting the plastic and all this kind of stuff because it gets very hot. But just now let's just listen, because you can hear the oil starting to heat up. So we've gone about 35 seconds so far. We haven't heard any popping yet, but we are going to hear some popping very shortly. When you're watching this video, I might speed it up a little bit just so that you don't get bored. Listen to that popcorn, it's starting to pop. Since the oil is hot and the steam is escaping, I'm now lowering the heat. Once it starts to pop, I lower it down to 7.5 and then actually down to 7. And you can hear it stops very quickly. So it's not popping anymore. I'm going to turn it off. And just let it settle for a minute or two. And what do you think? Are we going to see no popcorn? Are we going to see just a little bit of popcorn? Are we going to have a whole pot of popcorn? Well, I leave the cover on just for a little bit longer, only because sometimes there's a few more that have to pop, and the oil is very hot and there's a lot of steam there and I don't want to breathe it in. Look, that was one that still popped. Yeah, you can hear the oil still cooking in there. Okay. All right, now's the time for the surprise. What are we going to see? Let's look. Oh my goodness! We have a whole pot of popcorn. That's how you can pop popcorn on an induction cooktop without shaking the pot. Okay, so I'm gonna pour the popcorn into a bowl. So I have the popcorn poured into a bowl. And now I'm going to sprinkle on some nutritional yeast seasoning. And I probably am putting on about a tablespoon of the seasoning, up to 2 tablespoons. And then I'm going to put a little Za'atar on. Za'atar is sumac and sesame seeds and potentially some salt and thyme, and depends on who's making the Za'atar as to what's in it. It's a Middle Eastern spice. And now I simply just stir it up with 2 spoons. And the popcorn is ready to eat. All right, let's try it. This is great.
It's really good.
I like stovetop popcorn better than microwave. And it cooks really fast.